Hello and welcome to Post Plan episode 4. This is not just a podcast. In fact, this is the show where we take a closer look at our favorite moments and plays across the tournaments that have just finished. It's the CSGO Aftershow. It's powered by Skyboxes. We've got the lovely people over at CSGO Spotlight as well, making this possible to take a closer look and really dive into things in the rounds from previous events. My name is Dinko. Joining me for this one will be Mauisnake and Hawka as usual. Unfortunately, Blair is out there in India and the COVID situation is it's not looking great over there right now, unfortunately. It's kind of a tragedy, honestly. So he's got some travel issues. He's all good health-wise, so he'll be back for a future episode. Just couldn't be here tonight. I'm going to say, first of all, Maui, I haven't got to talk to you since the last episode. How are you doing, man?
Pretty good. I'm vaccinated. Hopefully
Oh,
Blair gets that as well.
nice.
I just started going to the gym actually 2 days ago again. So I'm back on the grind. It's good to pump some iron. Jesus Christ. I've missed touching metal. I've been just touching keyboards, plastic, all this plastic all the time. But finally some iron in my hands again. It's great.
Well, there is a market out there, ladies and gentlemen. If you're a peripheral company watching, get a metal mouse on the go. Mauisnake will buy it. Hawk it. It'll be nice and heavy. Who knows? Titanium, something like that. Something light, something hard. That's what you like, Hawk, isn't it? Your hair's looking fresh today. Just out of the shower. It's looking good, man.
Hey, at least I've had a haircut now. It could be way worse. Like if I just left it when it was long, it would be awful. This is like kind of acceptable. You can kind of pretend you're like, oh, I'm just going for the I've just woken up look, right? Like that's a thing.
Yeah, man, it looks much better than obviously the long Jesus-style hair you were going with for a while there. So yeah, looking great. We're hopping into our first topic though, and it's a big one. For the intro, I'm saving it all for this. It's obviously the big news move. It's going to be Device heading over to NIP, and I think for everyone involved, I was so shocked. Like I was actually pretty emotional, honestly, when I seen this happen and watched the Dear Device video. It's pretty crazy because no one ever expected this move to happen. And obviously, we've had a few days to sort of process it, Maui, but I do want to know your thoughts when it initially happened.
It just felt like it came completely out of left field. I'm pretty impressed with how this was kept under wraps, or really just no inclination or really signs that this was going to go off. And the fact that Device approached NIP with Astralis's backing, saying that he wanted to leave, it makes everybody wonder a little bit more as to, those, I guess, reports are kind of mostly fueled by, I'd say, Thorin. I guess there's just kind of a handful of people that have been saying there's been some stirrings in the Astralis camp. It feels like some of those must be true if Device wanted out this badly.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it feels like Astralis is sort of slowly declining. Hawk, it was just this horrible situation to watch unfold on stream. And it's kind of weird seeing how it wasn't that long ago they were a team competing and winning some of the biggest events, right? They closed out 2020 with a big win at the global challenge, and then they headed on into 2021. Just hasn't been a good run for them. Was this, obviously it can't be the move you were expecting, but do you feel like it kind of screws over Astralis and also Device right now, just with how weak NIP should be across the board with the rest of this move? Do you feel like anybody really benefits other than maybe NIP on the media side of things?
Yeah, I mean, NIP obviously are going to be really happy with getting Device, right?
Yeah.
There's no complaints there. I've got to say, from the Astralis side, I feel like there's two ways this can go. Because I think there's a lot of people that are looking at Astralis and saying they maybe weren't as motivated as they needed to be. I think Device has even come through and said since he joined NIP, he kind of likes how they're doing things, and they're doing a lot of things that Astralis weren't doing. So I think there's one of two ways it can go. Either Astralis keep on this same path where it doesn't necessarily look like they're staying ahead of the meta, which I think they have to do if they're going to rely on their fundamentals, or they go the other way and it really does push them on and they start to drive forwards. Because again, I don't think there's been too much wrong with Astralis just in terms of what they're doing. It's just felt to me like they're behind the curve slightly. So maybe if they can use this as motivation to spur them on a little bit, obviously it's going to be really hard to replace him. But I would love for them to try and fight back from this and say, hey, okay, we've lost Device. So what?
Yeah.
Let's go and do some stuff. This core is still amazing.
Yeah, we can theory craft a little bit about Astralis' future in just a little bit, but I want to focus more in on NIP and where they're at right now. Obviously, with the Device move, Maui, it's a huge move, right? Really elevates the level this team can go to. The ceiling is just hit the top, right? There's no further you can go when you add a player like Device. But for me, when I look at the move, I just don't see this team winning trophies even with Device on the team, just based on who they've got. I mean, there is very solid individuals, but it feels like they are one move away from being an elite team. They need another big name, I think, in there.
Yeah, I think you could say that for sure. I think that NIP in their recent results, kind of for the last year, they're the team that it seems like a lot of people will predict against because it's very difficult to just look at this roster and say, yeah, this team is going to beat FaZe Clan or this team is going to beat ENCE even sometimes. I feel like with NIP, it's really tough to see who is going to step up because it just kind of feels inconsistent, you know? Sometimes Rez pops off with a big game. Sometimes it's Plopsky. Sometimes Hampus is making those info plays and he actually finds the kills and people are able to convert on top of that. And sometimes Nock is able to convert that late round situation. But it always feels like it's just who is going to be the guy today. And now they finally have him. It is Device. He is just Mr. Consistent. I would probably say he is the most consistent player in Counter-Strike at the moment. The fact that he can play the early round, mid round, and late round to such a high level. I feel like there's only two other players in the world that are really this consistent in ZywOo and Simple, of course. So to see him on a team like NIP, now you finally know. You know that this player is going to be putting out 20 kills every single game. There's pretty much no games where you're really seeing Device fall off, unless the rest of his team just pops off completely, so he doesn't have to do anything. But he's always going to give you an allotment of frags, and I think NIP needed a player like this. That being said, I will reel it back a little bit because I kind of agree with you, Dinko, that it feels like there needs to be maybe one more change.
Yeah, and my camera's randomly frozen there, so I don't know what I'm looking at. Hopefully we can get that sorted out pretty quickly. But yeah, I mean, I'm talking about.
Oh, he just gone completely?
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I think.
All right. Well,
What are your thoughts on? Yeah.
No, yeah, he probably would be the player you look straight at. I also think they are just waiting for a couple of their players to maybe show all they can show us. Like, you know, Plopsky for a while was a really highly touted prospect and was kind of starting to put up some star numbers, and then recently has dipped down a little bit. I also think in general for NIP, they always had that problem, like Maui was saying, where they just never had a really consistent star that they could go to in every game. I think Nork had a couple of tournaments recently which were better, but he still occasionally had a pretty big off tournament. I know, I think it was at a DreamHack where he had a pretty poor rating, like below a 1 for an AWPer, which isn't really acceptable. So yeah, they've got that go-to guy, but they still need that go-to second guy, which they probably don't have right now. But maybe they can get someone. If they can get someone in, maybe that they've been talking a little bit about having some announcements, then hey, then this team actually starts to look fire.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully I'm back in here. So there we go. I have no idea what happened, to be honest. My internet didn't crash or anything. I heard everything you were saying. But yeah, Mao, you had a thought that you wanted to wrap up on.
Oh, I was just gonna say that it feels like for NIP right now, they're really almost there. It feels like their CT sides are actually really quite good. It's just that for me, I feel like the rifle work between Rez, Plopsky, and Hampus can be good at times, but I think for me, I'm actually looking at Plopsky. I feel like he can be the guy that's aggressive in these early round situations, and it feels like every team has that guy on the team right now. We'll get to FANG later for Extra Salt. I mean, Yakinder has been the most prominent member there. Mirror for Spirit. I feel like we keep talking about, or I at least do, these aggressive riflers. And right now, I kind of am leaning that Plopsky needs to be that player, but I almost feel like he needs to improve on maybe just his mechanical skill or just like those kind of early round game sense moments. So if that happens, if he's able to improve just a little bit, like just give me 10% more Plopsky, I think NIP actually could be a contender, but that's such a big if.
Yeah, and they're a very, very young team, and I think it's good that a player like Device is going to bring a bit of culture in. I think from Astralis, you got to see that. I don't know if you guys got to catch the vlog where they had his first day at NIP. It seems like he's bringing a good culture to the team. Now, you briefly touched on it, Hawka. I want you to elaborate on it now. Astralis' future, where does it go now for Astralis? Do we see this team move on with just one change? I think a lot of people are talking about Esetai coming in, but I've been hearing rumors through a lot of people sort of giving me these tidbits here and there from players and stuff saying that there's a few more big changes coming for Astralis. And do you think this team sticks together and just one move comes through? Do you think they need a little bit more now?
I think they probably. The thing is, there's no like obvious move to replace Device. Obviously, like there's
Yeah,
no
you can't.
Orpi you can just bring in that's Danish and
Knock.
just be like, yeah, okay. I mean, yeah, but there's just no obvious player you can bring in to plug that gap. I think so. It's hard. I don't know. Maybe Astralis
Guardian.
are historically like one of the teams you would look at and say, if there's anyone who could maybe just rock like not having a proper orbit, it might be them. But you still just don't get the feeling that they're in that position right now. I just don't get the feeling that they're as motivated as they need to be. I don't think they are putting all the prep time into the server. And so, yeah, I don't know where they go from here. I really don't. I'm kind of worried, and I think everyone is right now.
Yeah. Maui, I want to hear your thoughts on it, because is there any moves you would like to see? You know, is there anybody that you think that no one's really been in the conversation yet, or do we see a big change? Because I think a lot of people will be saying Glaive could be on the way out. MSL might be an option. You know, what does a future Astralis look like if you make significant changes like that to the structure?
It's tough to say. I actually wouldn't hate an S attack move, actually. I think he was starting to gain some form for Cloud9 as their opper before that project unfortunately met its demise. But actually, I think that Astralis, I hope that this lights a fire underneath them. They know, they see, they're going to feel the repercussions of the fact that they lost their star player, that he recognized that there was a problem with this team. And I hope that when that everybody else just comes together in these moments, and instead of, you know, falling back and saying, all right, you know what, we've won a few majors already, we're good, we can just let Device go, it's fine. I hope they say, you know what, let's prove Device that he made a mistake. Let's show him that he made like this awful choice, and show him that every time they meet up in the future, Glaive knows the types of picks, the types of plays that Device wants to make, the proactive things that he wants to do for himself. Glaive, if he's there to read it, that'd be really sick to see. It's going to be really cool if they can face off in the future.
Dude, yeah, this is it. This is what you need to do. You need to make Device the new Kirby. That's
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
That's what you gotta do. That's what you gotta do, man.
Yeah, I think Astralis started tweeting out stuff about Kirby's birthday today. I think a lot of people are like, this means he's going to Astralis. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even think about that. It's pretty ridiculous how we've gone to the point now where we don't even consider Kirby as an option in our minds. I don't think anybody was really thinking that Kirby was a possible move to Astralis, and they just kind of remind us, hey guys, you haven't spoken about this guy. And I think it's pretty sad, honestly. I think he had his second chance, you know, after North. He kind of had his second chance going into FaZe Clan Hawka. And, man, he didn't really deliver at all there. So I think he's down there right now. And I think Kirby is a player that has the potential to do something. I mean, we've seen it before. I just don't know when he's going to get that back, because I feel like when you're in North, it seems to kill players, right? It seems to just really put you down a lot. And I think Anders had a good point. I listened to an interview he did recently. He said it's really hard to wash the stink of North off, and it's true.
Yeah, I mean, he tried to wash it off, I guess, with that period at FaZe Clan, right, where he was there for a little bit, trying to show us what he could do, and he had a couple of good games. He had a couple of all right maps. I think he might have put himself back in the conversation, at least, from that period he had at FaZe. I think are they on that team with like him and AZ and a couple of the other guys? They were like trying to make a team, right?
Yeah, it's Gade, AZ, and Kirby right now, I think, is the core of that team, right? It's basically a bunch of the North players making a new team, and we've seen that team. We know what to expect from that. So, I mean, if Astralis come a knocking, man, you got to pick up that opportunity. But I think that's all we've got right now for Device. All the time we have to talk about that move. There's a lot to dissect.
I'll say one more. I want to say one more thing.
You got one more thing.
Yeah, one more thing about Device moving to NIP. I think that if he begins winning tournaments again and winning majors and brings NIP to a #1 status, I think we have to shift the GOAT conversation to just being about simple right now, and actually really give Device a fair shout into it, because he's he doesn't, you know, put up the same numbers, have the same kind of highlights, but if he can elevate this roster to win like multiple championships, I think I might slowly shift my opinion on the matter.
Yeah, I think that this is actually a really good test. You know, is Device just a product of the systems he's played with? He's only played with the top level in-game leaders so far in CSGO, right? He's played with Karrigan, he's played with Glaive near the top. When he's been performing well and getting results, he's been with two of the best in-game leaders in the world. So yeah, it's a big test for him moving forward. I don't think anybody could deny that conversation if he goes ahead and puts Nip on top. But it's like giving yourself a real difficult challenge when you've seen this such an average team. If you can make them elite level, then that's going to be real exciting. We're going to hop into our breakdown segment where we take a look at the matches. This is really the meat and potatoes of this show. And obviously this time around, we've got 2 events to take a look at. Usually, and so far, we've just looked at 1 event at a time. But there was Blast Showdown. It was a pretty quick event. And then it went on to Funspark, which was an event that had a couple of top teams in it. And then the rest were kind of just, they were coming up. I think there's a few exciting teams in there that we were really looking to get a look at. So when we look at our first matchup, we're going to start with Blast and Hawka. This one's going to be 9Z versus Vitality. Now, Vitality have had a little bit of time, and I was hoping that they'd be coming back out of that bad form and maybe figure it out here at Blast, but they didn't. And 9Z, a team that come over for South America, I had no thoughts that they would be able to do anything here against Vitality. And I seen you joking about it, Maui, during our North American DreamHack tournament. You and Hawk, you seen the future, right? You predicted them to win that event. I have to say, though, Maui, it's a bit of a cop-out going for 50%. You straight up don't even think they're going to win. So at this point, you can't play that card, Maui. 51%, maybe you can, but 50% definitely not. But they get the win here, Hawka, against Vitality. And, man, they looked really solid. And I think the talking point always has to be try, right? I mean, Alper coming over from Argentina, he's in the conversation now.
Yeah, absolutely. He had a lot of highlight rounds throughout this. I think some of his numbers, from what I remember, were just incredible in some of the series. We obviously saw a bunch of the highlight plays, which is obviously what sticks in people's minds. But some of the actual plays he was making, obviously great. I was looking at the numbers. He does have, so he had the highest CT rating in the tournament, 1.50 rating on CT side. That's really impressive. And I think that's always kind of what you want from an AWPer. You kind of want him to be that backbone on CT where he should be able to sort of pick his spots in a lot of the rounds. I think he also had one of the highest impact ratings, ADR. Like he was up there in pretty much all aspects of the game. But the one thing as well that 9Z didn't have, which I feel like a lot of these underdog sort of teams have to use sometimes to come through in these sorts of games, is they didn't actually have that many clutches won throughout the tournament, which I think is really impressive because you look at the numbers, they're actually pretty middle of the pack compared to all the other teams in terms of clutches. So that also is really impressive to me and shows it wasn't just, sort of some overperformance in some tight rounds. It was actually a pretty good team effort.
You got any thoughts on this, Maui?
I would say one thing that's also interesting about 9Z, from what I saw, is that I felt like their structure wasn't actually what got them through this. It was a little bit more individuals, and I kind of was hoping that we would see a little bit more of that bit structure because he's just been such a veteran leader for so long. But it was kind of like just solid grouping and hitting bomb sites. Like it wasn't like he was masterminding it. I felt like he kept things simple, which worked out for them here. You don't want to have too many moving parts with a young roster such as this, which is it's nice. It's refreshing actually.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely impressive. And a little tidbit, and you see what I did there. He's been a professional in 3 video games. Three esports, man. That's pretty impressive. Now, obviously, it was National League in League of Legends, but that's still, still pretty good. You're playing at such a high level in Brazil. So, yeah, it's pretty impressive. Biz, obviously a big brain player. Looking forward to seeing what he could do with his team. And I seen some conversation earlier today about maybe a replacement for Junior on Furia coming in for Try. Seen that coming through. I don't know how that'll play out. I think that's just some theory crafting of people getting a little bit too far ahead of themselves at the moment. But we're hopping into a Skybox, Alex. This is going to be for 9Z. We're going to look at a quick utility adaptation to flash banana for an early fight.
Yeah, I think this actually ties in nicely with Maui's point earlier, where they like to group up a lot in these sorts of rounds. So this is in their game against Vitality. They're already 6-0 up, and you're going to see a lot of utility exchanged at top banana early in this round. I actually think, wait, this is the wrong round, I think. Is it the right round? We're about to find out. No, this is the wrong round. Okay, I'm pretty sure it's this one. Yeah, this is it. We got the gun round. Technical difficulties out of the way. I say technical difficulties. It was just me being dumb.
Hawker's brain technical difficulty right there.
Exactly. Exactly. So early nades are going to be exchanged on banana. This is a T-side molly deployed as well as a flashbang. We also get counter utility, right? Counter flashes, counter mollies from the CT side. And this is already going to force an adaptation from 9Z. as soon as you get a molly here and Eastor's in this position, he's going to have to do something different to what he was expecting heading into the round. So instantly, he's going to go ahead and put the smoke out on the molly. He's able to survive in this corner. And then, considering Eastor is the stand-in, I just think it's really nice how they're so quick with this flash from Max. He throws a flash up here. I'm even going to draw the flashbang for you quickly. Here we go. Boom. It's flashing right here in the sky. Beautiful artwork, as always, here on Postplan. Amazing work. But you're going to see this one flashbang really just sells the round because Apex was trying to get aggressive himself. This is what allows Eastor to get the trade, to bring it back into a 4v4. And from here, 9Z have grouped up early. They've got it into a 4v4 scenario. It's looking pretty solid for them to start the round. This is always a good position on Inferno where you force the CTs to spread thin. And you can already see Vitality aren't really happy sitting back in a 4v4, as you would expect. So they're going to go ahead and flash Masuta in to Banana. But all that does is gives Try a chance to land the AWP shot. And even when he misses it, Eastor just decides to swing, uses his aim, gets another kill. And from this point, it's a pretty easy conversion in the 4v3, just grouping up and eventually hitting this B site. It takes them a little while, but they are finally going to come through. A couple of nice smokes, standard execute, and an easy round win. But the main thing is that initial flash on Banana was pretty well timed, just solid stuff. But considering Eastor is standing in for this team, that's all you need to do. In a situation where that's not what you were expecting heading into the round, you're pretty happy with the early trade on Banana, and it turns into a nice round.
Yeah, I mean, they look pretty, like Matt was saying, simple, effective stuff coming in, again, using their individuals. Eastor just going for that swing. It's good to see that they've got those individuals to hang around there. And like you said, Eastor is standing in for them. He's always been a talented Spanish player. I think he's a little up and down, which has definitely affected his career. But Maui, you know, just quickly getting the final thoughts on this performance from 9Z. I think, obviously, we can focus in on the Vitality side of things here because, I mean, is it just the fact that they're playing against an unknown quantity, or do you think there's just something deeply wrong with Vitality right now? And obviously, they were making a change after this tournament, so there clearly was something there.
Yeah, I'm usually on the more optimistic side, the more positive side. And I want to just say that, okay, 9Z played well, but I do think actually that this was a case of Vitality playing beneath themselves. And like, this is something I feel like I've been saying this for a couple of months now, that it just felt like Vitality, hopefully they're reinvigorated with Kyojin slotting into this lineup, because it just feels like the up and down performances from individuals, even Zywoo, has been really shocking. And it doesn't feel like Vitality is playing in any type of different style or structure. It feels like their calls are pretty similar to what they used to be, but maybe that's a problem. Maybe people are reading them a little bit better now. But I think it's actually just that everybody knew that this was the last legs for this 5-man lineup, and they just kind of let it get underneath them. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously with the new player coming in, Hawka, you did a little bit of a video on him. Obviously, you went through his demos of his previous team, and you think he's passed the eye test already. So, you know, just give us your very quick thoughts on him.
Yeah, the thing with Kyojin is I don't think he is the replacement for RPK instantly. So I think they are going to have to shift up the roles. But his aim looks really, really snappy. I think much more snappy than Masuta's aim when I looked at his demos previously. I think he's a better aimer than Masuta. I actually think he might have better understandings of team play than Masuta did when he got picked up too. I saw a couple of moments where it was standard utility, but it was just well timed, and he had good awareness of the macro game. And I don't think he needs to have this amazing brain for the game because his aim is so good. And his brain looked good enough that I think he could compete at the top level. So really exciting. Also, definitely expect this guy to have one of the highest headshot percentages in top Counter-Strike. His aim is generally that good for his snappy headshot style.
Yeah, and I'm just waiting for every caster to say his name wrong and then get corrected very quickly. Hulk, you've already been through the fires of that one. Kyojin, I think that was probably what I would have said originally, because I'm not much of an anime watcher, or a weeb, I think it's called. But I think, you know, Kyojin, I'm used to it now. You've gone through that fire for me, Hawka. And also, if you liked Hawka's drawings, there will be a merch store. He'll be drawing everything on the shirts. Everything's going to be looking fantastic.
Oh,
yeah, Hawkeye, you didn't know about that one, but it's coming up. We got our second matchup to take a look at. It's Dignitas versus Team Liquid. All the big dogs in this tournament seem to have just dropped off, and it's this brutal format where it's like you lose one series, you're completely out of it. at least it's not best of ones, it is the best of threes, but a lot of these top teams were just not making it very far at all. We lost Astralis, we lost Liquid, we lost Vitality very, very early on indeed. And this was a 2-0 loss for Liquid up against Dignitas. Very quickly, your thoughts on this one, Maui, just overall, in terms of whether or not you think it was a underperformance to Liquid, or do you think Dignitas showed up with a great game plan? I know you had some solid thoughts on this.
Yeah, I thought this was like the worst veto Liquid could have possibly gone with. I think that they lost the game. Well, they did lose the series, but as soon as I saw that veto, I was actually just betting all my channel points on this one. I was like, dude, just let me eat. I'm gonna feast today because Dignitas, they're really good at Nuke. For just to reiterate, for if people weren't following or don't remember, it was Nuke was the pick of Dignitas, and then Vertigo was the pick of Liquid. And Dignitas are really solid at Nuke. Like, this is the map that they'll try to first pick every single series I see them play. And then Vertigo is just the favorite map of basically every tier 2 team for some reason. It feels like every rising team knows that they might be able to get an upset victory on Vertigo against top competition, so they throw it into their map pool. And Dignitas, they've gone through the trials and tribulations of Snow Sweet Snow, Home Sweet Home, Spring Sweet, whatever damn cup they've been playing lately. It just feels like every team is throwing a different type of like just problem at Dignitas. So they have gone through the gauntlet at this point. And like, I was talking about how I think on the desk, or people in general were just saying that the win percentage for Dignitas, it's not that good, but it's just like, but they're playing Sinners like all the time, who are the best Vertigo team on the planet. Like, this team is great, they're crazy, and Liquid are just worse than Sinners. And if Dignitas can get close to Sinners on Vertigo, I don't know. I think people just need to watch a Sinners game on Vertigo. It feels like their nade protocols are just insane. Like, they get so much damage off. Their individuals have like such good reads of the map in those kind of positions. They've made Vertigo look like Mirage for Sinners. I don't know. They're just so comfortable on it. So that's basically my main point here. That the veto was just so bad for Liquid.
Maybe we need to get some side content of you breaking down some Sinners Vertigo rounds on the YouTube channel, maybe, Maui. That would be interesting.
It's just these late night games of, it's like, I'll just be on my phone and just like, what the hell? Like, this looks crazy. Like, yeah.
Dude, I remember casting some Sinners games on Vertigo, and man, they played against some of these LDLC style mixed French teams, and they just reamed them out, like destroyed them. It was beautiful. I loved getting a Sinners game back then. But Hawka, I mean, you have a sort of thought moving forward on Dignitas, right? They're pretty solid on Nuke. We're talking about how good they are on this one. I think the biggest key to their success at this one has to be Lekro and a good performance from Heap, right? This added firepower from Lekro seemed to create a new storm for Dignitas. They come out as a retirement home into a team that can actually win matches.
Yeah, I think Harry was joking a lot about the Dignitas thing, because yeah, Lekro is having a lot of those rounds. Heap has started to show himself, and I just love how we're actually getting almost like scouts now in CS. It feels like you have to scout ESEA main to find a player to develop, and Dignitas have done that with Heap, and he's actually now proving himself to be a solid top player, right? We saw glimpses of it at Flashpoint. He was one of the players we liked towards the end of last year. He was having a lot of good success in late round scenarios too. Now it's actually converting into actual proper top tier play. And yeah, as for the Liquid side, I do wonder how much prep work they put into this game against Dig, because like you said, it is that single elimination bracket, but maybe you just look a bit too far ahead of this game and you don't look exactly where you should be going in the veto, and then you stumble into Vertigo and Nuke, and that was honestly, like Maui was saying, just not the map choice you needed here.
Yeah, I mean, the veto is something I think the top teams kind of struggle with when you're going up against some of these weaker tier 2 teams, because long gone are the days where you play against a weaker team and you can bind them out on any map. You get surprised real quick at what these guys are doing, because those tier 2 circuits, we've actually just seen a huge piece of news come out that sort of all the tier 2 organizers have come together and put $2.7 million into a circuit that's going to have LANs, etc., which is obviously very good. That's going to develop the tier 2 scene even more. So I think in general, that's just going to make Counter-Strike a more competitive esport, and you're going to find a sort of pathway for these players. Like Hawka was saying, if you want to find any of these new up-and-coming players, you just have to go watch main, right? You have to go watch these upcoming leagues, and if you've got an actual circuit where you can look at these tier 2 players coming up, tier 3 players playing in these circuits, it's a good way to see what they can actually do and get some of that LAN experience. They're not just getting plucked out of an online league and put into a top team, and it's like, okay, we're paying you the big bucks now. Show us that you can do something on LAN. is you actually have some sort of pathway to becoming a professional player and getting that experience before you really get your big shot, so you don't flop.
Yeah,
And
it's nice to see that from
yeah.
Funspark and Grid in general. Just I mean the whole like path to pro thing has been something that I think ESEA has been kind of at the forefront of, you know, just the
Yeah.
whole open intermediate main structure. But now there's another tier 2 circuit that people can, you know, invest their time into as well. And it's like that's just the more the better, honestly.
And it's just much more healthy, right? We've got a Skybox here. It's going to be a round from Dignitas versus Liquid over on, I believe it's on Nuke. I didn't actually write down the map, Maui, but
Yeah,
it's probably Nuke, right? Dignitas play good rounds on Nuke, so take us through this one.
Yeah, this is going to be a round from Liquid where they actually find the opening pick. And you'll see that the score right now, 11-1. This game is not going very well, but we're going to hone in on Naf to start things off. He's going to actually take a risk, an individual one at that, throws his smoke, pushes past it, actually makes his way into the radio room. And you'll see that Heap and Force are just not ready for him here and just kind of playing an off angle as Heap is trying to just, you know, clear this all out. And good timing by Naf to swing out right when Heap's peeking in as well. Little bit of an exchange between the two of these players here. Naf tries to get out, but he actually decides to commit to the fight. And now it's a 5v3. And this is where you'll see that Liquid, they kind of peel off. It was actually going to be right here, Grim and Stewie, who were going to just play a little bit more forward, but they know that they have the two-man advantage, and they actually decide to just fall back. And this is something that I want to just break down really quickly, that a lot of people in this situation would say something along the lines of, you know, play your man advantage, it's fine, just play back, let them make a mistake, let the action come to you. But against top teams in the world and teams that are comfortable on their map picks, such as Dignitas on Nuke, you can't do that, and you'll see exactly why. Halzerk uses his utility perfectly to flush Stewie out of the opposite vent position, gets a pick there, and what you're going to see is that Lekro actually decides to keep pushing on towards outside, and they're just going to take this space, and the Liquid here decided to just try to play back, play the numbers game, and you'll see that, again, Lekro, he's just still pushing on towards outside, he's getting so much info, so much space right now, and Halzerk actually is going to go onto the roof here to throw a little bit of a fake to create some misdirection. These nades don't really have much strong purpose in the round, so I'm going to kind of zoom forward just a little bit here, but all they do is they get Liquid looking the wrong way, and you're going to see that now actually Lekro is most activated because Liquid, they think that it's going to be a play towards A, probably through the typical routes, but it's actually going to be through mini and through door. And all in all, this is just a great push. You'll see that Lekro, he gets that really strong angle. Like, this is an angle that a CT is supposed to want to use to defend against an A push, but Lekro's actually here now. Fallen pushed into the hut. Freiberg kills a Liege. Lekro continues to get Fallen as well. And Dignitas, they're able to convert this at this point. Naf is just going to save so we can move away from the Skybox at this point. But really, this is just an example of Liquid kind of playing at that moment to not lose. And what the setup that they had earlier was Grim was forward, Stewie was forward. They had a lot of information, but once they started peeling back, that's when Dignitas found themselves, once again, despite the man disadvantage, in their comfort zone. And that is a fatal mistake to make, even when you think you have a huge advantage, such as two players.
And Hawka, how do you feel about top-tier players and top-tier teams playing this playstyle against the likes of Dignitas, where you should have that advantage individually? You're playing kind of scared and playing very reserved. Do you feel like a team like Liquid, the real win rate there, the real success path is to really use the advantages you've got on the individual front, or do you think that isn't such a big of a factor?
Yeah, I think it might not help, obviously, the context of the round just being so far behind, right? And,
yeah,
and you
exactly.
see Naf get 2 kills and you're like, oh, okay, we should just sit back and trade at this point. I think that the interesting thing to me in that round is that I wouldn't hate if Liquid fell back if they had fallen in heaven or watching yard, or at least some eyes on yard. Like, if you have that player watching towards yard, you don't have to be as scared of those flanks. And then I don't think you need the advanced information. But instead, they didn't seem to have someone watching yard that entire time. So then you almost would rather have that aggressive setup on A, because as soon as you lose a player, you actually kind of end up having to re-aggress anyway, because you realize, oh crap, we have 2 players on A and we could get flanked from heaven, where we kind of actually have to push hut now, because otherwise we just get completely screwed. So it's almost like they were forced back into going aggressive after they lost that kill, when they kind of already had that control anyway. So yeah, if they had a player watching yard or more info yard, I think that's okay, but you can't really afford to give up that much ground, like Maui was saying.
Well, Dignitas are looking much better. I hope they can continue to sort of see that trajectory upwards. Shout out to Vendetta, obviously, ex-talent member. Obviously, got to get him on the show sometime. I think he would actually be willing to come on and really pick his brain around this Dignitas side. But we're going to jump into our next matchup. And, you know, swiftly moving through, Hawk, you've got a lot to talk about in this one. It's G2 versus OG. When you look at this, obviously, G2 are in a very weird spot now. And I think we've started to see it recently where we talked about it in the previous episode where we said you don't really expect Nico to be the AWPer for too long, do you? So I think the changes have already started to come in. We're seeing Mauisnake pick up that AWP a little bit more on the T side. It really does feel like G2 are in a weird spot where they've got a band-aid over them right now, right? They're leaking blood everywhere, but they just got that band-aid keeping it together for the meantime. I mean, this matchup is a good test for them against OG, who had just got this sort of new roster coming together. They've added Flamesy. They had their boot camp for the first time in a while. There was lots of positives coming in here for OG up against G2, and I think it was a real fun match to look at and a real good test for G2.
Yeah, I think G2, like the one thing that I'm concerned about is that it does feel like Mauisnake is opping more, but I also was listening to the interview I think Mauisnake did with James Banks or someone about how he thinks that he's not the primary opper. Dude, just go, just commit. Just commit to it, please. Like, I don't need this, like, half-assed, like, maybe I'm the opper, but don't put the blame on me or something like that. Like, just, dude, just go for it. Just, please, I need to see more Mauisnake opping because I think he's better than Nico at opping, actually. I think he understands rotations better. I think he's better in these kind of micro situations where he has to dance around a little bit of utility to try to get that one clean shot off. I think Nico tries to force the issue a little bit too much. And one thing that does worry me about G2's run here at Blast is actually that they kind of played, I think they played a total of, was it 3 or 4 maps total? And I think that might have just fell into the case that Nico is the opper on the other maps and Mauisnake is the opper on these maps. And but just get it all out of the way. Just please all in on the Mauisnake op. I'm there.
Yeah, the thing is they had that, well, they actually went through and qualified, but they had a run at the start where they played against Endpoint, right? And Endpoint were about to make changes. They were about to get rid of Robin and bring in Mezzy. And Endpoint are a good team, but they're not quite at that level yet, I don't think. So, you know, that's a pretty good warm-up game for them. They get past them. You know, I don't think Endpoint really bring them the same sort of risk as a team like 9Z would, where you kind of understand what style Endpoint are going to bring to the server. So it is quite a comfortable matchup for them. I think OG was a good test for them getting the 2-1. But the biggest test, and the test I didn't think they were going to get over, was that Spirit win. So good stuff from G2. But we are going to focus in on this one, Hawka. You've got a couple of rounds to take a look at for G2 versus OG. And we're going to jump into your first Skybox.
Yeah, I'm going to focus on OG to begin with in this one. Oh, hang on a minute. Do I need to... Are we good?
We're fantastic.
Yes, we're good. I don't want to quit. Oh, no, we're not good. Hang on a minute. I knew that I forgot about this completely. Every time I forget
it's okay,
that I need
Hawka.
to refresh
It's okay. It's the issue with doing things live, right? Things happen. But I guess we can just go down that path of thought while Hawka gets this one sorted out, Maui, and just really start talking about that Mauisnake situation again. If he starts picking up that AWP a little bit more, and that's the role he starts going for, then that does allow Jax to be a little bit more comfortable in this team, I think, because it started to be a world in which you wonder if Mauisnake and Jax can coexist. But if Mauisnake picks up that ult, maybe he can.
Yeah, I think right now I would just kind of change the structure of G2 or just solidify it more than actually go for personnel changes. I know everybody's always calling for everybody's head all the time, you know, swap out this guy, swap out that guy. But honestly, with G2, I think you have something that works. I mean, they made it through their side of the blast bracket. They beat some pretty good teams in Endpoint, OG, and Spirit, and that's something they should be proud of. They just need to kind of, you know, tweak the formula a little bit right now. You don't need to throw Mauisnake out or throw Jax out or try to look for a new player. I think this is something right now that you just hold on to and try to see if it improves, because we've seen what happens when teams just kind of give themselves a little bit more time to get comfortable. I mean, like they can actually change things for themselves. And I'm pretty confident actually that G2 with Malik behind them are definitely capable of doing that.
Yeah, Malik is very underrated, right? I had a pleasure of speaking to him last year, coming out of probably the last LAN event, one of the big ones I was at before COVID. And, you know, we had a good discussion early morning, airport over a coffee. I was nearly said the brand, but you know what? I'll leave us open to some coffee sponsorships in the future. But yeah, we sat there, we had a conversation, and I loved sort of diving into his mind and getting his thoughts on the matter. Hopefully we have got everything sorted, Hawka. You've got a little bit of compare and contrast right now. We're going to be taking a look at round 24. Good round T-side cohesion, you know, good T-side cohesion, and then we're going to take a look at some bad T-side cohesion.
Yeah, this is looking at it from the OG perspective, because I think this first round especially is a really positive sign to me, considering how early they are with these little roster moves they've made. So we're going to start OG on the T side. They're going to go ahead and lean pretty heavily towards A early. You can see, I didn't mean to draw a square, but it works. We've got 4 players over here on the A side of the map, and then Valda is alone here, going to be holding over on B. That will come into play as the round progresses, because Alexi B clearly has something in mind that he thinks will work against G2 in this one. And I like this call from OG because they start to pressure A pretty early in the round. And I think G2 are a team who quite commonly like to put 3B early on the CT side. And so if you start to pressure A pretty early in the round, you're going to cause issues. You're going to cause chaos, and you could cause them to make some mistakes in their rotation. So they're going to set up a fairly early bit of control in towards this A side of the map early here. You're about to see Valda just put a molly up banana, but it's mainly this nades onto A that you want to be watching for. Smoke into short. We've got a smoke landing in pit as well, which kind of confused me. But the most important thing is they force out this CT utility here. And this actually kind of screws G2 over as the round goes on, because putting up this wall, in theory, is good to block the push from coming in from the Ts, but it also blocks your own line of sight. So you don't have the information you want onto short. You can't really be sure whether or not it's an A play. And we're going to see here, eventually, push comes into long. It looks a little confused as to where this smoke is landing. It's not landing to block off Amanek, so he gets a free kill, but Alexi B is able to get out towards the angle. And most importantly, Flames is playing as this aggressive player. He's fully committing to this fake up through short. He's really trying to draw the issue. He's making a bunch of noise here, and all of this is going to cause a mistake from Nico. He's got his knife out. He thinks it is 100% an A play, and this is why you love having Valda on the team. You can rely on him to just get this kill with the bomb in his hands, by the way. So if he loses that, they lose the round, but he gets that kill. And now all of a sudden, from G2's perspective, they are in a lot of trouble here. Nico can throw this smoke on the fly. He actually throws a molly behind it too, which is so nice, because now look at these players just completely trapped on this A side of the map. 3 players stuck here. Flames has already backed away. This is just beautiful stuff. A little while ago, this looked like an A play. And now, look at the situation Nex is in, dude. He's so screwed. He's got this to worry about. He's got this to worry about. We've got arrows coming in from all sides, and Nex is going to try and use his utility early, but it doesn't work. Alexi B gets the kill. It's an easy end round on B. And the main thing I like about this is that Alexi B is confident to make this sort of call early into the life cycle of this team, because his calls are going to be the key to making this roster work. And that was a brilliant call there, just to get them onto the B site and get them an easy round win.
Yeah, and of course, if you guys are liking what you're seeing right now with Skybox, you can head over to the description in the or the link in the description below, and it will take you to skybox.gg. This software is completely free. You can sign up for it and take a look at these rounds yourself. Really look back at your own matchmaking games, your Faceit games. You can actually directly link your Faceit account, so it adds your games straight away into the Skybox software. So you can take a look at that and improve as a player. Hawka, I think it's best we do this. I would get Maui's thoughts on it, but I think it's best we just get the comparison between a good round and a bad round on the T side. You obviously have another one to take a look at here, and then we can have a discussion towards the end.
Yeah, Dinko, I agree. We don't need Maui's thoughts. Screw that guy. Let's stick with the Hawka show, baby. We're into round 25. So this is the next round, and G2 do end up winning this game. And I think it is important to show some of the issues that OG were having. This is going to be a pretty standard round. So we see flash into second mid for G2. And this was an issue for OG throughout this series. Nico getting picked early. I don't think there's much you can do about this one, but he goes down early into the round. So you're already fighting from the back foot. It's not the best start to begin with for OG. We're going to go ahead and skip ahead here, because they pretty quickly decide to make up their minds that they want to go back for a B play. And this is a fairly standard B execute. You really would hope that everything was on point here with the timings. But it is Counter-Strike, and we know that the small margins for error can be making a big difference. So we get a smoke here, smoke here. These are nice and fast smokes, exactly what you want. It's the flashes over the top, though, that end up kind of screwing them over, because these flashes from Valda, especially, if we go back slightly, are just slightly too late. He's lining up this flashbang. He throws it over the top as Alexi B and Flames are pushing in. Alexi B, I think, does turn, but Flames doesn't seem to turn away, so he kind of gets blinded, and it makes it much more difficult for him to trade onto this angle where Nico is. And more importantly, at this point, they're in a lot of trouble because they were relying on those flashes to get them a quick pick onto the site or to force these CTs away, because now the CTs can just use counter utility, and the round is kind of screwed from this point. You see a Molly's landing late onto triple. Just the timings of the nades were slightly off, and that's the sort of thing that is going to improve over time, and it's going to have to improve over time because that B play is pretty standard and something you have to make sure you have nailed down on Inferno.
Now, Maui, I'm not as mean as Hawka, and I do really value your thoughts and opinions. That's why I've got you on here, obviously. So, any thoughts on this in this one? Any play you want to focus on more here?
I think that what's nice is that there's room for improvement with OG, and I think OG have been showing a really nice side lately. I've been pretty positive about them actually. As soon as they picked up Nico, actually, even when they were playing with I think it was Issa still on the roster, I thought that they were actually turning a new page in the OG book, and I think they're actually beginning to write on those pages finally. That they're actually taking some people the distance. I think they just beat Mouse Sports in the last 24 hours, and that's a team that has had a lot of time to work on some things now. So honestly, I think that OG right now, when it's that easy to break down, when Hawka's able to break it down like that, not that it's easy to do what Hawka's doing necessarily, but you know, it's just that when he's able to
I sense a little bit of tension here, boys. Let's get a fight going. No one cares about Maui's opinions. It's easy to do what Hawka does. You know, you guys at home, you can get 30K subscribers. You're easy stuff.
It's just simple.
Hawka.
It's just simple. You just need Skybox. That's all it takes, really. No, but no, when it's just as easy as just throwing the flash a little bit earlier, that just shows that there's a lot of room for improvement for OG that can be solved in a relatively quick, easy fashion. I mean, just dry run it once, or just, you know, scrim and put an emphasis on that. Run it one time during the scrim, whatever it takes. I mean, these are things that OG can fix. You know, they just need to snap their fingers. Alexi B needs to just tell them, hey guys, let's work on this one time, and that shouldn't be a problem for them again. And I think that if they are able to do more of the rounds that Hawka showed first, as opposed to the rounds that he showed second, there's a clear trajectory, upward one, for OG.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good to see that room for improvement when you're playing at such a good level already. It's exciting. I'm really excited for this OG team. You know, as much as I love MBK and I've always been a big fan of him as a player, I think when you look at that team, it was doomed to fail from the start when you just look at how many minds are in it, right? Because Valde's known to be like a secondary caller, has a lot of opinions. You have Alexi B, who you have to make him the in-game leader because he's just so damn talented at that, right? He's proven it time and time again. You guys have had the luxury and other people to listen to his comms, and everybody that sort of said things about what he's able to do, you know, loosely. You're not allowed to give too many specifics, but I mean, just the way he calls, everybody has been mad impressed at his performances, Hawka.
Yeah, for sure. And I also think, surprisingly, something people maybe didn't expect on this OG team was that Issa was actually himself a little bit vocal with the setups sometimes, and was oftentimes trying to hype people up. But also, he actually did have a couple of moments where he would come in and say, I think we should switch this. I think we should switch that. Okay. And I almost don't want that on OG because Alexi's calls were just so good whenever he was making them. So, like, in theory, that's great for Issa when he is on another team. But I just think this wasn't the team where you needed that.
Yeah, and of course, I'm looking forward to seeing what OG can do moving forward. Again, G2, it's a good run for them. I think, you know, obviously qualifying is the goal. They're looking much better. We'll see how they perform. I mean, their IM summer qualifiers look pretty difficult for them, so we'll see how they progress moving forward in the future. But we're heading into our second tournament, right? Blast is out of the way. It was a relatively short, cutthroat tournament where it was all about getting the final few teams through. It killed Astralis. It was the end. It was the last game. It was pretty sad, actually, to see Blast. Astralis was the last tournament they played in with that roster. So So, I mean, that we'll all forget about that one. But we move forward into Funspark, and this was a $250,000 event. I actually worked the first day of that event, and it was pretty fun. I mean, it was the easiest analyst desk I've ever done. It was 2-minute segments, Maui. I went in and I was asking you for tips. I was asking you for tips, Maui, because I wanted to make sure I did a good job. I did all the preparation. I watched demos on all of the teams. Havu, I watched an entire. I think I watched pretty much every single recorded nuke game in the last 3 months for them. I didn't have to use any of it. So, I mean, at least I've got all that knowledge inside my head. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, we hopped into Funspark, big event, and obviously coming out on top was big. But a big story, and we're going to follow it through here, is Extra Salt. And this team would come over from North America. You've got the South African guys in there. I mean, this is a very fun team with a lot of hype around them because they are the hope for North America, Hawka. And what a run they had. Made it to the final. It should have won it. I mean, they just dropped off every now and then. They would tease you right to the edge, and then they just never would get it over the line. So, Extra Salt, what did you make of them in this one, Hawka?
Yeah, they were great, and again, like OC has been able to translate his game into the EU play. He had I think a slightly shaky start when they came to EU, but at this tournament he was really good. I think he was up there as one of their best rated players. High CT rating, which you always look for from an AWPer. But I think Maui was probably going to bring up FANG, but I'm going to bring him up too because, damn, this guy, he plays a lot of the aggro T-rifle spots, right? And I think that's really hard to do. I think unlike a team like Virtus Pro maybe, where Yakindar is kind of setting up those plays for himself, in this sort of team, it's more like, yeah, you're going in first and you are getting set up, but you're not the one dictating the play, right? JT is probably calling it. So you have to actually be really good to quickly understand exactly what you need to do in a lot of these situations. And I think that might have affected his T rating slightly because I'm looking at it now and it is the lowest on the team. But damn, like his CT rating is crazy high. And because he's getting a lot of those early kills, he does have huge impact for this squad. I'm sure Maui, as our NA expert, will love to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, his heart's probably throbbing right now, but Maui set you up perfectly for this one. Obviously, you want to look at how FANG is used in this team.
Yeah, so FANG, we're going to see here a round on Nuke, actually. This is against Big, the first time these two teams faced off against each other. So what you're going to see is FANG just taking the initiative on his own, whereas, like Hawka said, on the T side, you know, sometimes a little bit more set up, but it's actually going to be an aggressive play outside by himself. He's going to get all the way on red here, and they are right now in a situation, Big that is, where they're very far back. You know, there's a lot of pressure from FANG here in the spot, but actually what's interesting is that FANG gets kind of hungry for more, and Surson, he hears the drop down, he's actually going to take him out, and actually this is where the round gets really interesting for me. So it's a 5v4 in favor of the Big side, and Extra Salt, they had one of the best 4v5 conversion rates at this tournament. They had the best CT side round win percentage at this tournament, and I want to show you exactly why that is at this point. So Sonic and Marky are actually going to do a little bit of a kind of a misdirection play. I would say it's kind of a risk being taken from Sonic, but a calculated one. Marky, he re-smokes that door, and Sonic, he actually pushes in right into Marky's smoke. This smoke that Marky throws gives a little gap for Sonic to slot himself into, and Marky, he spams that smoke at the points when Sonic is actually pushing through. So there's a little bit of I would say, like, the Big side probably think no one could have pushed that because Marky was spamming, but he does it right around Sonic. And so Sonic's able to slot himself all the way into the squeaky door position. Tizian, I mean, he's pretty famous at this point for his lurking, but he gets caught by OC, who was also going for an aggressive play towards the ramp room area. And now actually Extra Salt, they have full control of lobby, and Big, they're going for a mini hit into the upper bomb site now, and Sonic, they're just not aware of his position. He's able to get 2 kills. Actually, it makes the veteran play to actually just tuck behind the boxes after he gets those kills so he can't get traded, waits for the rotations from the rest of his team for them to clear out those spaces. And at this point, I mean, Big, they actually dug themselves their own grave. They're just all trapped now on this bomb site, this A bomb site. It feels almost as if Extra Salt have become the tease in this round as they're trying to take it away from Big at this point. But all in all, I just think this was a really sick round from Extra Salt, as they showed that they had the information from FANG. They knew the timings and where Big were probably going to be maneuvering because of that. And all in all, Extra Salt, they played a really strong game on CT side. I think they're really known for their T side play, but I had to get this round in here because I wanted to show that their CT side reactions are top tier.
I'm looking forward to seeing them play again because obviously when they came over to Blast, I got very worried because it's a one and done, right? And they had the play against Spirit in the opening game, and you only have one BO3 to show what you've got. But heading into Funspark, it was a double elimination, best of 3 Hawka, so we got to see them have a few chances, and they didn't really need them, to be honest. They played really well, really well. Are you impressed with the level of Counter-Strike they've been able to bring over? Because they have just been in that echo chamber playing against the same North American teams over and over again. Are you impressed that they've been able to bring that level of CS and really just click and play pretty much immediately?
Yeah, I think especially at this Funspark tourney, I was really specifically looking at some of those team stats that were so great in NA because we weren't sure, like their flash assists, for example. They had some of the best flash assist numbers in the world when they were over in NA. Can they do that against EU competition? The answer was yes. They had the highest flash assists at this tournament. I think they had some of the highest traded percentages too, which, again, it's partly because of the way they play. But it's great to see that all of that seems to have translated into this tournament, and that's all they needed here. It was really cool to see them adapting to EU play. I think the other thing, which is maybe a bit more memey that you could say, is that the classic thing about NA is everyone says, okay, well, they don't even use flashes a lot of the time. Like, they don't even use their nades properly. Nice thing for Extra Salt is they are the team in NA that uses the flash as well. So they were probably a bit more ready for the EU teams using some of those same flashes against them. So maybe that helped them adapt a bit more. Who knows? But all in all, like, you've got to say, after having a really tough first outing in that Blast, right? You just get a really tough draw. I'm glad they had this Funspark tourney because I think they've instantly proven themselves.
It's incredibly important as well to pick up some of that momentum heading into DreamHack Masters, which will be coming up this week. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing if Extra Salt can keep that up. OC is obviously the player we've all got our eyes on. A team that was really stepping up was, of course, was Fours, right? They came into this event, and I was just looking at them, just wondering what to expect because they obviously had some power in the team, and in my opinion, he's a very talented player, obviously mechanically speaking, but he became very stale, one-dimensional. And I think the Zorte player is actually a better pickup in my opinion. I think coming into this team, he was the best thing about that Team Unique roster, and then coming into this team, he was actually a pretty good pickup. From what I've seen in the tournament, he was quite versatile, and he had a lot of impact. So I look forward to seeing that sort of team continue to play forward. But Extra Salt coming up against a CIS team like that, they wouldn't have been able to play against teams like that at all. And obviously, when they came over from North America, they had a first taste of what CIS Counter-Strike really is by playing Spirit. So I thought this was going to be a difficult matchup for them. Coming into this one, Maui, you've got some Skybox rounds to look at. What were your thoughts on it?
Well, to touch on what some of the strengths of Fours are, I think that they really deserve a lot of credit in that. Let's see, let me make sure that this is up. They deserve a lot of credit in that the pickups, like you said, were actually pretty great to watch in terms of Kenzie and Zorte as well. Yeah. I was focusing a lot on the Extra Salt games, and I think that the game or the rounds for me that really impressed from Forza were when Kenzie was able to just get really aggressive and find opening picks. So we're actually going to look at how this is maybe kind of not a little bit of a non sequitur, but actually we're going to see how Extra Salt were still able to, I guess, combat that. So Kenzie early on in this round just takes this early space towards Radio Room. And what I want to highlight is how Extra Salt were able to just kind of defeat these really pokey and proddy defaults from Forza, because now that it's in overtime here and Forza just have this they feel like they have a second life in this game, they're going to get aggressive, and this is what is difficult for a lot of teams at Funspark to handle. The Four side, it just felt like they were catching people off guard because they're playing such a unique style. But there was so much happening in this game, like simultaneously, that it was almost as if Extra Salt kind of one-upped Fours in a round such as this. So I'll slow it down just a little bit, actually. You don't usually use half speed, but there's so much to talk about in this round that I think it needs to be done, because Extra Salt right now are going for map control in 2 spots at the same time. They're actually lurking out of door right now with FANG and Sonic, and they're also retaking this whole space towards the Radio Room. And FANG is actually able to get a kill as he's moving down in this position over here. And at the same time, OC and Marky have kind of solidified this defense towards Radio Room. And now Zorte, he's going to push right into OC here. And there's just like this confusing, chaotic Counter-Strike is something that teams kind of threw at Extra Salt a lot in North America. There was a lot of rounds where people thought that this was how you beat this team, and I think that kind of battle hardened Extra Salt. They were able to understand that these aggressive, all over the place defaults that just felt random were actually something that they could tame, and the fact that they were able to show that in a game such as this was super impressive. And yeah, I guess we could just talk about that as well. Just the fact that really they're able to just control that kind of space. So we could take it out of the skybox here. But like I think that really goes underrated for Extra Salt. The fact that they can go punch for punch, blow for blow with these EU teams. When the EU teams think that they have an answer in the game, it's actually Extra Salt that are very ready for that answer.
And it's cool to see because, Hawka, usually a lot of these European teams and these veteran rosters, they should be used to adapting to lots of different playstyles. It can take a long time to try and figure out how you're going to approach these CIS teams, but Extra Salt seem to adapt pretty quickly against a team like FaZe. And for me, that's a very good sign moving forward, that some of these players, so maybe haven't had the most experience. I mean, FANG, for example, hasn't really had much experience at all. And I mean, coming into this event was just popping off. He was just performing very well. So, I mean, looking at that as a good sign. How far do you reckon that could take Extra Salt forward? Just their adaptations they were able to make on the fly.
Yeah, I think it's great, especially because I think Maui made the most important point that the way Forza oftentimes feel like they win games is just by playing this very different style that kind of baits teams into making those mistakes. And this is a team you would think would be primed to make those mistakes, with the inexperienced players and with them playing over in NA. You might not expect them to be ready for this style that FaZe play, which I've heard a lot of teams describe as they do poke and prod for information a lot, but then sometimes they'll just go dead silent and play super passive. And it's just a really weird dynamic to be in because you're kind of always on your toes and you're always not exactly entirely sure when they're pushing and you're always kind of second guessing yourself almost. But they didn't seem to do that too much here. Just getting that win for me was really impressive for this squad. And I've got to say, I'm super impressed by FANG's numbers because I always think that whenever you have an aggressive rifler in a sort of structured team, I always feel like their numbers get slightly neutered almost. Like I look at Flames on Endpoint and his stats were never incredible, but you could clearly see he was looking like a really good player. And so for FANG to do this well on this team and get the MVP of this event is really awesome. And it just goes to show like he is definitely someone to watch out for. I'm glad they made this pickup. It's looking great.
Yeah, and the man's got drip as well, Maui. You see his travel outfit. He was looking fly. But we're heading into your second Skybox round here. Round 32 is the one right after it. So we're going to take a look at that one, Maui, and really get an insight on this one.
Yeah. So this is basically just Extra Salt saying, you know what, we don't even want to let fours run that sort of pokey, proddy, early aggressive style sometimes, and we just want to run a play right off the bat. And this is kind of the typical Extra Salt round. When people think about where XC9 was a year ago and what made them so deadly, it was plays like this. The layered flashes coming outside, the fact that JT's jumping on the roof right here. It's just, this is actually, I think, a Hunden play back when, maybe on Tricked or something. The way that they would just do these really kind of misdirection plays with the nades flying everywhere, the flashes flying, and you're going to see that actually in this moment, that JT, the in-game leader here, actually setting himself up for success. A little selfish, I will say. No, I'm just kidding, JT, you're great. But honestly, Flit just caught just blind, staring at a wall in this vent. Like, look at where his dead body is. Like, who dies there? That's sad stuff, right? So JT takes full advantage of it, and all in all, just a really good early play from Extra Salt. The reason I really just kind of wanted to show this is what Extra Salt was great at last year. We can already stop. They demolished that A bomb site. We can zoom out from this picture as really that's what I expected. That's kind of how, if you're not tracking the trajectory of JT and this roster and how he has developed as a leader, that's probably what you think is going to happen. That's how you're going to prepare for this team, try to stop those early type of plays. But they still have them in their back pocket with a now developed kind of default style on top of that. And that's where Extra Salt is getting really scary for these EU teams. It feels like you're playing 3 different teams at the same time. You don't know if they're going to do a slow default to take map control into a late exec. You don't know if they're just going to beat you in a T-side default, and you also don't know if they're just going to run one of their fast plays. It's really difficult to play against a team like that has so many plays. Like, their playbook is so thick right now. It is a fat stack of pages that these players are probably studying on the plane as they're trying to fly in. I know Fang's looking fly as he's getting on that plane, but he's also got to get his books ready. He's got to get his glasses on, because I mean, this is like studying for a test, and the test is just, JT, what play was that? Okay, all right, I'm gonna run in exactly like this. It's such wonderful coordination that I'm seeing from Extrasalt. I'm just so happy that this team is succeeding in Europe, because they have a style that's very hard to keep composure with, but even against some of the best competition in the world, they're doing just that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are just hoping that there's another North American team that you can get behind, right? A team coming from that region. Obviously, not all North American in there in terms of the players and their nationalities, but they're representing the region from coming from that country. So, I mean, you look at Markey, for example, he was having some massive rounds as well, and you've got some great South American representation, I think, across CSGO at the minute, right? You're looking at right now.
I will step in. Mexico is definitely NA. It's very
you feel like it. I mean,
it's definitely NA until you get to that Panama Canal. A little bit of geography right there for you. It's still NA. I'm claiming Markey. That's why I have to just claim Markey here. That's why I have to step in. We gotta take him. We gotta take what we get here. Okay, it's dire out here.
Well, we're looking at some of the players coming out of the whole Americas continent as well, and they're coming. That's better, Maui. That better. They're moving forward, and Markey was having some fantastic rounds as well, right? He was looking really, really solid. So I think just as a whole, this team have got so much to really look forward to and get excited about. What I'm excited about is hopping into CSGO Spotlight. We're going to be taking a look at this one. They are a Brazilian group of people, and obviously this is where that segue would have played out. But I guess, you know, Maui's got to throw me a curveball.
I just had to take it.
It's like those swagways that were kind of like a craze for a while, right? The ones that people would order from Asia, they just wouldn't work. That's kind of the one I've just got on thanks to Mauisnake. But we're hopping into this one. Fire. Yeah, this one just blew up right below my feet right here. It's a dangerous device. And while we're heading into this one, CSGO Spotlight, it's from a bunch of Brazilians. It's an incredible piece of software that they're making. They're developing. It's very early in the stages right now. But when you look at it, there's a lot of potential there moving forward at Hawka. And we're just going to kind of showcase what it's capable of. And obviously right now we got those heat maps you can sort of click on, and it takes you to a Twitch clip. It's very good for kind of preparing for matches, preparing for tournaments, and it's fun to take a look at.
Yeah, I think especially if you're trying to scout an opponent before a game, it can be super useful. We're looking here at Big on Dust 2 specifically. I've got all their kills and deaths up on the CT side. I can switch it to every single player if I want to, and this is over 5 matches that they played at Funspark, so this isn't that useful to us, okay? We've got kills and deaths. They're getting kills and deaths basically all over the map. That's to be expected, but you can quickly use it pretty nicely. So, for example, I'm looking at CT side. I'm looking at Keto. I know he normally plays towards B. I can have a little look here at where his kills and deaths are happening across the map. He's getting a lot of kills sort of fighting aggressively more towards mid in the blue. But you also get a really nice and useful positive KD difference and negative KD difference. So we're also seeing when Keto's playing B and he's pushing into tunnels, he only got 1 kill and he died 3 times in this sort of area. So this is really useful information to have as to what the opponents are going to do. You can also kind of see that Keto is also having to rotate over to A at times. But if you want to switch over to maybe someone like Xantares on the CT side, he's not going aggressive as often. Remember, Keto was having a lot of these rounds where he was pushing into the tunnels, into spawn even. Xantares is more of that B rotator, and you can kind of see he's almost always getting kills and deaths on his own side of the map as that B-sided rotator. And again, you get to see positive KD difference, negative KD difference. Apparently, you don't want to fight Xantares on A short if you're on T side. Don't do that. He's getting a lot of kills here. Probably on retakes, though, if we're being real, because we already kind of know he is that B-sided rotator. And there's just so much you can go into here. You can do T-side as well. You can have all sorts of good stuff. It takes a little while to load up, but once you get it, it gives you a lot of good information. And the thing I really do like is the ability to see these KD differences, because you can instantly see, okay, well, Searson at mid doors, maybe someone we can target, right? You can see time distribution. There's just so much here that if I was scouting for an opponent, I would dive into. And like you pointed out, the nice thing as well is you can quickly hover over any sort of kill or death. I accidentally clicked on it there, so it got rid of it. But there you go. You can see it there. You can click it. You can get that Twitch clip open as soon as you want so that you can quickly have a look at exactly what happened in that moment, how this player got a kill or died in this spot. Basically, the gist of it is there is a massive amount of data here that you can pretty easily look through. If you just want to look at any of these specifics, you can quickly figure it all out. And it just has so many options, and you don't have to look through the whole demo to figure it out, which is so useful. I think teams want this sort of thing, right? They want to be able to just cut down on that time slightly, be able to use a program that basically tells you, okay, you can quickly look at the B plays here, the A plays here, where they're having their strengths, where they're having their weaknesses. Like it's almost too much to dive into on stream, which is crazy to say because this podcast is meant to be us diving deep into things, but you can dive so deep on that you can basically figure out a team's entire playbook if you really want to.
Yeah, there's all the info is there. You just got to spend the time going through it. And if you guys want to use it, if you're a player, coach, manager, or just a CS enthusiast trying to improve your team and make it bigger, you can head over to CSGO Spotlight on Twitter and sign up, contact the guys. I'm sure they'd get you guys involved with the piece of kit and software. I've also got good stuff coming for talent members as well. Maui's had a call with them. I've had a call with him. Great things going ahead for CSGO Spotlight. But we're going to transition out of them and now talk about one player we've already spoke quite a bit about, and will be the MVP of this Funspark tournament. It's going to be FANG coming right up, and you guys have already talked about a lot of his strengths, but Mauisnake, I do want to ask you, where is the ceiling for this player? Where do you think he can be in the world?
Ooh, I think FANG right now, it really is, I mean, this is kind of the first time he's able to face international competition, at least in Europe. So this is going to be, this journey for him is going to potentially just make him into the player that we can expect moving forward. And right now, we're already seeing just really solid play on the CT side. I know that the round that I showed, he died to Surson there on top of the silo, but there were so many rounds against Forza especially that he was finding opening multi-frags, not even just finding that one kill and falling off, but killing 2, even 3 players. There was one round where he was able to just take all of Banana against Forza on the CT side, run down, and pressured Forza so much that they made a huge mistake running right into him, and he was able to just mow 3 players down running in a straight line at him. And it was just plays like that where FANG was able to get the opponents out of their comfort zone, that he's going to be such a thorn in the side of any competition that Extrasalt face up against.
Yeah, and I mean, in that grand final, popping off against Big, again, I keep saying it, that stat graphic was, of course, from the final, but I keep saying it, they probably should have won that best of 5. They definitely should have won it. There were so many chances for them, Hawka, and you're just sitting there on the edge of your seat. I remember I was sitting in the living room. My girlfriend's asking me why I'm screaming at the TV, and it's just, come on, Extrasalt, just one more round. Don't do it to all of us watching at home, and they just kept doing it. And I have to say, you mentioned Xantares in the CSGO Spotlight segment, Hawka. He ended up just carrying them through a lot of important rounds for Big, but FANG, for me, was still the standout player, just because of how young he is, inexperienced he is, the level that he brought to the server against some of these big teams, no pun intended, of course, and what was incredible. He's just a very good talent, and now we get to see him coming up for DreamHack Masters. And what are you going to be keeping an eye on coming into this one for FANG?
Yeah, I think just see if he can do more of the same. I think especially also, like, Xantares had a really good final, but I think up until that point in the tournament, FANG was having a better tournament already. So that definitely helps him out, right? You definitely take that into consideration. I'm just also impressed that I was looking through the stats, and I didn't realize he had the 3rd most clutches won at the tournament. I think he did win a couple in that final, if I'm remembering correctly. Really high headshot percentage, as you would expect, like really high on the opening kill numbers. Basically, a lot of the numbers that you want him to be high on in his role, he was very high on. So I think it is just see if FANG can do more of the same, because OC's numbers did kind of dip slightly compared to what he was putting up over in NA. That's not a slight on him. Like, he was still great in this tournament. It was just over in NA, he was so unbelievably good that he set this stupidly high standard he was never going to achieve. FANG actually maybe even over-exceeded like what he was doing in NA. It seemed like he might have even got slightly better, which is it's crazy to think about, but it's definitely a really strong sign going forwards.
You know what I'm happy about? The Extra Assault are performing, but they don't quite get the win, and that just means it gives that worst thing you can possibly have is hope for Ryan at Rush B Media, right? He's just losing his mind. You know, if Cloud9 coming back in with a big investment, they going away, and now he's got Extra Assault. Choking finals and best of 5. So I mean, it's always fun to watch him lose his mind and go down a roller coaster. It's been a fun show so far. You know, lots of exciting content to break down, and we'll be back for DreamHack Masters. That's just about it here for Postplant. We've covered everything possible from what we found interesting at Funspark and the Blast Showdown. Lots of CS action to break down. We will be back again, like I said, after DreamHack Masters with a bigger show, maybe a new format, and we're going to have Blay in here as well, who will be breaking down the action again. So we hope you stay safe over there in India. Thank you very much to all of our partners. Skybox, thank you for CSGO Spotlight for providing with their software. Thanks to Maui and Hawka. And of course, Dark hitting the buttons in the production room. This will be on YouTube tomorrow. Make sure you follow over at Dinko TV YouTube channel, and we'll guys see you then.